Welcome everybody to your 2025 Soulstone Hero Priority Rankings. Where should you use your Soulstones? I believe this is a highly anticipated video because people are asking me about it maybe 100 times a day. So I figure let's go all out. I have been working all morning for hours doing my research, putting everything together and making sure I'm 1000% confident in what I'm going to share with you. And in this video, I decided we are going to cover both Legendary Hero Soulstones or Polished Soulstones. These can be used on any heroes, including Lords, and the Unpolished Legendary Soulstones, which can be used on any Legendary Hero, except for Lords. So I went freaking deep. I've been doing this for hours. So if you appreciate the hard work, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel. It means so much. It's free to do. If you like what we're doing here, if you like what I'm up to, please consider doing so. Hit that button. So I've got a full list with tons of explanations with awakening priorities for both your Legendary Hero Soulstones, the polished ones for Legendary Lords, and then we have the full list for the unpolished Legendary Soulstones that cannot be used on those Lords. So we got our Lord list essentially and our non-Lord list. You can see I've got tiers, I've color-coded it. I think it looks really nice. There is so much to get through and I don't want this video to be too long. So without further ado, where should you use your Soulstones, both polished and unpolished? Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Very quickly, you may be wondering, where do you get these things? Well, they drop from the guild boss. You can see with Nightmare 2, they don't yet drop, but starting on Nightmare 3, you can get both the legendary polished ones and the unpolished ones. You cannot get them in every chest. It is just the top 2 chests on Nightmare 3. And then when it comes to Nightmare 4, kind of the same story. However, they go all the way down in availability through the top 4 chests. It is just the final chest, you cannot get it. So another reason to really focus your guild boss. The other ways to get these are from the Init quests, the Odyssey missions. You can get an unpolished soulstone from an achievement when you beat the gear dungeons. And the very last thing is events and rewards. We're actually getting a free one tomorrow at the time of filming this as a New Year's Day gift. We got one earlier for Christmas through the event. So hopefully they keep coming with the unpolished ones. The polished ones though still remain immensely rare. And for that reason, let's start with that list for the polished soulstones. These are the ones that can be used on Lords. So for that reason, full stop, you should only ever use them on Lords. If you check every name on this list, we've mentioned every single Lord. That is with good reason. Some of them are mentioned a couple times. You see Soul Cadens. You can see Valderon. You can see Ingrid and Ingrid. That's because different awakenings have different priorities. But it is, in my 100% expert opinion, never, ever flippin' never use these on any hero that is not a Lord. So you can see in that bottom tier, it's literally titled literally never and just unsub for me. You don't have to unsub, but if you're gonna use one of these things on a non-Lord and you can see who's in that category, any non-Lord, I don't care if it's Sun Wukong or Ajax or Ymerit or Kagiri or so on, I don't care. These are not for non-Lords. Now that unpolished soulstones were introduced into the game, never should you use the polished ones on a non-Lord hero. You might be saying, well, I looked at your list and the only Lords I have are Elder and Demi and Venoma. So shouldn't I just use it somewhere else? No, just wait till you get a better Lord. I waited for almost a year before ever properly using them. The thing you can do is leverage reset books, which they just started giving as rewards, and you can kind of mule them around. However, they should still be muled on better options. So you can see I wanted a soulstone on my Twin Fiend way back in the day to get him A1. This turned him into a soulstone mule for me. So I was really comfortable eventually putting a full 3 soulstones into him, getting him A5, because I know one day whenever I need it, I will reset him. I actually have 2 reset books, but anyone that's been playing in December, we got a free one as a login reward, totally free. I would like to think these reset books will come at least once every 6 months. So those you can leverage, but still, if you're working over here with King Hearts, Torador, and Araka, and you're like, should I put a soulstone into them? In my opinion, it's the hardest no ever. And even more importantly, you should not then say, well, then I'll just put a soulstone into Hex. An unpolished soulstone, sure, But a normal soulstone, I think that's just like criminal, and it goes against the entire theory of soulstones and any advice I will ever give you. So I want to begin with that. Now, let's dive in. I want to explain the tiers, really just the top tier for both. It is called Top Choice, and I hope you take that title with a lot of gravitas. It's important why I'm calling it that. These are definitive top choices. These are, if you want to min-max your account, never use a soulstone on any heroes but these, unless you have reset books and you want to use it on a slightly lower tier. Never, ever do it. That is my opinion. 100%. These are the heroes in the current meta of the game for their respective soulstone types that the soulstones are for. This changes as we get new heroes, as we get new content, but where it stands now, heading into January 2025, these are the heroes your soulstones are for. So you can put them on other ones, and we'll go through all of that, especially the immediate tier underneath if you need stuff like that. However, the ultimate goal is to hit the goal awakenings. So let's talk about that now. You'll see on every hero I've put in here, when it's relevant, there's a parentheses and I write the awakening. This is really key to understand. If you have, let's say, Ingrid and 2 soulstones, I do not think you should be putting 2 soulstones into her. If you want to, because you have a big picture view and you know the second you get the third, it's going on her, regardless if you pull Praetus or 2 Praetus or Praetus and Valderon and Yovar, whatever, that is fine. However, you should always be stoning, right, with the ultimate goal to hit the proper awakening. There is no reason ever, if you have an A0 hex, in my opinion, to A1 your hex with a soulstone. Do not do it until you know you can hit the key goal awakening. Otherwise, it's a waste of your soulstone, in my opinion. It's a total waste. You can do what you want. It's your thing. It's your discretion. But there are key awakenings that change the hero, that transform the hero, like Hex is A3, you know, like Sun Wukong at A3, stuff like that, like Praetus at already A1. So if you can't get stuff like that, obviously Praetus A1 you can get immediately, but with the other examples, just sit on them. Be patient. If you can't be patient, then you can take all this with a grain of salt, but that is my advice. So let's begin. Your top choice for your legendary polished hero soulstones by a mile are Ingrid and Praetus. Ingrid with the goal of A3. Ingrid is an excellent hero. Ingrid at A3 has a strong argument to be the best DPS in the game, full stop. I know a lot of the awakenings off the top of my head, so I don't want to go through every single hero one by one, but I figure let's use Ingrid and let's use her awakenings as an example for how to understand this list. So Ingrid at A3 is just a new beast, a totally new beast. So at A3, during Solar Overload or Stellar Overload, which is the special state for her AoE or single target respectively, it reduces the number of basic attacks required by the talent to trigger Solar Flare and Star Shower, again, respective to if you're in Solar mode or Stellar mode. These are the special things when they trigger that make Ingrid busted. The Solar Flare, all of a sudden she's hitting up to 15 enemies in a wide range, a 3-tile wide range, endlessly forward, and it's a crazy blast of AoE damage. And for the Star Shower, you're getting this 9x hitter, 50% damage, single target mode, and it's crazy. Other very good things come from them with her crazy passives, which we'll not go too deep on now. But what you need to know is typically when she's deployed, when she's in one of those modes, and then she gets into the special overload mode, she's going to do every 4 basic attacks. The 5th attack is going to be the Solar Flare, or the 5th attack is going to be the Star Shower. Now, when she's overloaded, it is every other attack, every other one. You go from 1 in 5 to 1 in 2. It completely transforms the character. It makes her from fantastic to the beast of all goddess beasts in this game. That is what I'm talking about. If we actually go back to the first 2 awakenings, this is nice, the A1. In Stellar mode, 20% increased damage to targets with Radiant Erosion, so her single target's better. At A2, wow, plus 300 attack and a boosted Faction Lord skill, 5% attack for everyone. That's great. Is it worth your soulstones when you might pick up a Praetus and you want to A1 him? No. Once you have 3, or you have an A2 Ingrid and you have 1, or an A1 Ingrid and you have 2, and you can get her A3, it's all worth it. But you should be patient, in my opinion, and sit on it till you can guarantee that crazy transformative thing. So the Ingrid A3 is a perfect example. Praetus A1, Another incredible thing. Praetus boosts himself in a crazy way with his ultimate. His damage dealing is better. He gives a crazy post-deployment attack boost. It's phenomenal. He has a fairly low-cost ult as well. If you can get him A1, all of a sudden, every single basic attack he does restores 3% of his rage cap. That's not 3 ticks of rage. It's 3% of his rage cap. So you can see at max skill ups, his ult costs 700. So that means every basic, he gets 21 ticks of rage. This is broken. He's ulting constantly, and it is phenomenal. This is the awakening you're seeking out. As you'll see, Praetus and Ingrid both make new appearances later on for their other awakenings, which are great, but not like required. His A3 over here, when the number of Light of Judgment reaches 5, this is his passive, you can see over here right next to me. When it reaches 5, he gets a boost of 15% attack. Phenomenal. But you don't need it. It's a bonus, right? If we go to the A5 now, again, it's amazing. For every 15 strikes received from Light of Judgment, the target receives 200% extra true damage based on his attack. It's a great bonus damage. It's not required at all. It's like a cherry on top. The A1 is transformative. So what we're doing here is looking for transformative awakenings. So by a mile, even if you don't have them, if you want to min-max, and especially if you don't have a reset book, sit on your soulstones till you get Ingrid and or Praetus, and the priority goes getting Ingrid to A3 or Praetus to A1. So if you have both, first thing you should do, if you have soulstones and you have both, first thing you do, it's easy, make Praetus A1. Then the next thing you do, save everything until you can make Ingrid A3. Let's go to the next category. This is called if you need. So what is the need here? Well, the first need I'm talking about is if you just need to use them. You like don't want to sit on them, you don't want to be patient, and you want to invest in your account and push progress as fast as possible. These are all nice options. The other way this becomes a really strong thing is if you have a reset book, so you know you can get those soulstones back. These are excellent options, right? Obviously, Praise and Ingrid, these are repeats. We're talking about different awakenings, but the perfect examples are Soul Cadence and Twin Fiend. I know people don't love Twin Fiend, but his A1 is unbelievably good. Both Soul Cadence and Twin Fiend on their ultimate from their A1 do 25% magic and physical damage vulnerability to the target. These guys ult all the time. It benefits all heroes that are dealing any damage besides true damage, and it leads to enormous spikes in your damage. Guild Boss 1, Guild Boss 2, Arbiter of Frost, anywhere you want to use these guys, any boss, any elite, you're going to deal so much more damage, not just with them, but with everyone else because of that crazy vulnerability. It's a really easy investment at A1. You should do it if you ever use Infernal Teams. It will help you in a huge way. You can do that, and if you need to use them, it's a great choice. And then you know, if you put a Soulstone into Twin Fiend because why not, and then maybe you get more and you want to just dump them there because you know the second you get a Praetus or an Ingrid, you can reset it. There's no reason not to do that. If we work our way down the list, we've got Valderon. His A1's really good for Arena, quick deploy. He immediately gets a stack of his Chaotic Vitality, which is like the key mechanism in his kit. That's really, really strong. However, unless you're so into single target arena or something like that, this is not an important thing. What is important is the A3. Whenever he has that Chaotic Vitality, which he'll now get from A1 at deployment, and then he gets throughout the battle, he's ignoring half of the defense of his targets. And he is just a delete button, even more so than he already was. That is transformative. It is not at the level of these two, but just like Soul Cadence and Twin Fiend, it's a super worthy investment. Now we've got some repeats. Praetus at A3 and A5 we already talked about. Phenomenal, nice bonuses. Praetus is a hero. If you have him, you'll use everywhere, so why not do it? However, not transformative. And then we've got Ingrid at A5. This is really great. It's even more damage. She ignores 25% of the magic resistance. So when she's in the solar mode, so she's just shredding through those magic defenses, but you don't need it. Like it's a great bonus, but unless you're super endgame or really focused on PvP and you have all these other things, it is not the top priority. So again, that's what this category is. Moving down, this is called good, but still don't. Again, with the caveat, if you have a reset book and you don't have the other options, why not do it? You know, it's still not a bad investment, but it's just not a top priority. Let's talk about the two heroes we've already discussed. We've got Soul Cadence. His A3 is phenomenal. It is a lot more damage, but it's borderline overkill for most content unless you're an early account and you need Soul Cadence to solo carry you. Hopefully you get there eventually. You can invest in it, but these are the priorities above it, especially these two. So always keep that in your frame of mind in the back of your head. Valderon A1, obviously this comes before the A3, but I'm saying don't even bother investing in him at all until you've got 3 Soulstones, or you've got him A2 already and you've got an extra Soulstone. I just don't think it's worth it. However, if you really want to, if you've got the itch and you're prepared to reset or reevaluate this, that, and the other, you could A1 him if you love Arena. That's the only real thing, or you want to get something bursty at the beginning. I don't think it's that good. We got some other examples here. Leia, A1 and A3, she's got phenomenal awakenings. I wouldn't do it because she's available from all summons. Hopefully, eventually you get her, but she is a good mule candidate. Her A1 is really nice because normally when she's ulting, that whole time she has a building progressive damage boost she gives everyone in range, which is an enormous range. You should go check out Leia's range, or you know what, I'll show you right now. It's pretty freaking nuts. There you go. It's a huge range, just like Aylin's. So she's giving this progressive damage boost, and then it does end. It lasts until the ultimate's over. However, at A1, it lasts 5 additional seconds. That's 50% more uptime. Instead of 10 seconds, it's 5 seconds. That is really good. We like it. Not a game-changing ability, but it does make Leia way better if you run her a lot. And then her A3, she can now give herself range during her own ultimate, which might not sound like much, but it is a ton. During her ultimate, she gives a big 10% boost to everyone, and then you get this progressive rage regeneration for 10 seconds. It starts at 1%, but it goes up to 1.6, so it's 16% more rage plus the 10% boost. So by the time her ultimate's done, she'll already have at least 26% rage, maybe more if you're running her with an Eloin or a Laurel Hollow, something like that. So it's really good, right? It really makes Leia better, but it's not a top option. She's not an ultimate meta unit. She's just a very good lord. Yovar A1, every time he does his ult, he can get 4 swords back. There's a 40% chance, so it's a lot more damage. If you love Yovar and want to invest in him, that's great. With Cyrus, every time he summons 1 skeleton, there's a 1 in 4 chance he can summon another. For GVG, this is so powerful. If Cyrus is your main tank for PvE content, that's great. At the end of the day, he's so good already at A0. Do you need it? I don't think so. But again, if you don't have any other options, it is a choice, so it's good, but probably still don't. I think that explains this list. No, this is every other lord. No, just don't. Even if you're saying, oh, I'll just mule them there. I think it'd be a waste of a reset book. The benefit's not good enough. The biggest benefit you'll get from any of these heroes by putting Soulstones into them is getting these lords to A2. Every lord in this game has an A2 where they boost their lord ability. So here's King Hearts, increases faction team members' shield received by 10%. Here's Morrigan, increases faction team members' AoE damage by 5%. It's never enough to justify the Soulstone investment and then the eventual waste of a reset book by investing in these characters, because they're all poor choices. Do not do it. So to recap, the ultimate uber priorities looming over everything are Ingrid and Praetus, getting that Ingrid to A3, getting that Praetus to A1. Those are unmatched in terms of how much they're going to change the character and boost your account. Next up, we have our 2 Infernal Lords, get that A1 for the crazy vulnerabilities. Especially if you're trying to progress through this game with the guild bosses, an A1 Twin Fiend is going to help you so much more than a rarer, more important hero, because that unlocks everything. If you do run an Infernal comp, and obviously Soul Cadence is an even better version of that, if you can get up to the A3 on Valderon, it is phenomenal. And then I'd say if you can get that Praetus A3, A5, great bonus. If you can get that Ingrid A5, great bonus. Finally, we have our good options, maybe for muling, but not for a long-term investment. Leia is great at A1 and A3. Leia is one of the top lords in the game right now. When I do my updated rankings, you shall see that. It will be reflected. Then we've got Yovar. His A1's really good. His A3's okay, but the A1 is as much as I'd invest. I think it's overkill. I wouldn't really do any of this if that's not clear. I would only do these things, and I'd only ever really be thinking long-term about these things with the current state of the game. Cyrus A1, especially for you PvP, GVG people, pretty good. Soul Caden's A3, especially for younger accounts, that's going to be a very hard carry. And then Valderon A1 for, people obsessed with Arena. Ignore all of these. Please, please never do it, and never even think about doing any non-lord. Now we've got our unpolished, baby. Buckle up. We're going to pick up the speed a little bit here because I think I've explained a lot of my general thinking, but now we're talking about our non-lords. As we enter the unpolished Soulstone portion of the video, I want to start by saying when it comes to deciding between putting Soulstones into Iax and Ymmerit versus Kagiri and Sung Wukong, to me it really comes down to where you are at in the game. If you still must max Guild Boss 1 for 50k, Guild Boss 2 for 120k, and you need a DPS carry, go for Sun Wukong or Kagiri. If you're thinking big picture, if you're endgame, if you have late game aspirations and you're thinking PvP, what can globally most broadly help my account, then go for Ymeric or Ix. In general, the unnameable dragons and the top limited heroes are always the best choice because they are the rarest and they are very special. So obviously, the really exciting thing is you can use your unpolished soulstones on Ix and Ymeric. These are unnameable heroes. They're completely versatile. They can be in any faction. They give damage boosts to everybody, and they are phenomenal. The game gives them Lord rates, and they reset your Lord Pity on Ancients, but in Conflict, in so many other ways, the game clearly doesn't consider them Lords, and this is a great example. You can use your non-Lord Soulstones, your unpolished Soulstones, on them. So if we go to Ymeric over here, who I'm lucky enough to have, with both these guys, all their awakenings up to A3 make them so much stronger. So I think if you just want to be mindless, it's always a good investment up to A3 to go with Ymeric and Ix. We go to awakenings now. The A2 on both is crazy. It boosts their attack, but the key thing is it boosts their Lord skill or their unnameable skill. It is called Ancient Blood, and typically, just by them being in your team comp, even when not deployed, it's going to increase all team members, regardless of faction or regardless of row on the team comp. It increases all their damage by 4%. This boosts the increase by 50% from 4%, 2% higher to 6% if you get that A2. That is phenomenal. It does make a big difference. And like I said, A1 for Ymeric, big AoE thing with a big freeze. A3, he can do even more Winter's Bite, so much more RNG. This is brutal in GVG, and it's really good for progressing through any content. Phenomenal. I'd say for Ymeric, his A4, this is not good enough, and his A5, in my opinion, not really good enough. His range is fine as it is. It's nice, but it's not an investment you want. Ix, every single one of his awakenings are good. Every single one, even the A4. -5 cost, he just got so much better in PvP. By a mile, I'd say the first 3 are the best. But if you ever just want to put your unpolished soulstones in a place where you can be so confident you know you did a good thing, Ix is always an excellent choice. Ymeric up to A3, always a good choice, every awakening. And Ix up to A5, every single one, always good. And you can see that's reflected here in my rankings. Let's go to our non-unnamables now. We have 3 other choices in the ultimate definitive top choice category. We have our 2 most recent limited heroes, Kagiri and Sun Wukong. They're both freaking phenomenal. Kagiri, I would argue, might even be the better choice. In a vacuum, I think Sun Wukong is a better hero than Kagiri. However, the boost Kagiri gets as a DPS, going from A0 to A3, is so significant. He's a fairly solid but not special DPS at A0, A1, and A2. Starting at A3, he gets these permanent damage boosts after just one trigger of this thing in any battle, his Sweeping Strike or his Ember Strike. They do stack. And this A3 takes him from a pretty good DPS but not special to legitimately top-end DPS in the entire game. If you get him A5, it gets even higher. This is phenomenal. Sun Wukong, in my opinion, is still better. So in a vacuum, this is the choice. But if you do have both, there is some nuance. And I might actually make a video on this. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to. At A0, Sun Wukong is already a delight. He is already a top DPS in this game. At A3, he gets even better. His stunning gets even better. He becomes even more special. I think this is phenomenal. And then at A5, his burst from his ultimate gets way stronger. His damage stacking gets way stronger. His trigger chances from the extra damage and the stun gets way stronger. Phenomenal, broken OP awakenings. An A0 Wukong is so good, and an A0 Kagiri is kind of not that great at DPS. There is an argument, and we might have to test it out. If you have both, what is just going to raise your total damage more? It might be investing in Kagiri, since Wukong's already so great. That being said, in a vacuum, I do like Wukong more. They both have their own roles, but in terms of DPS and in terms of investment, Wukong is just such a flippin' stud. If it's not clear to me definitively, these are the top 4 options. You really can't go wrong. The only thing to talk about is every awakening for Ymeric up to A3 is excellent. Every single awakening for Ix is excellent. However, for Sun Wukong and Kagiri, I do not think it's worth the stone investment until you can guarantee you're bringing them to at least A3. So I would sit on those stones because we've seen a pattern. You know, why blindly invest if the next limited is going to be even better, right? We had Kagiri, who's like, wow, he's so much better than Lust and Honora. This is crazy. And then we had Sun Wukong, and it's like, dang, this guy is way better than Kagiri. Who knows what the next one is? they're going to be worthy investments once you can guarantee the A3 and then guarantee the A5. But until then, I don't think you should use the Soulstones until you know you're going to make it to that thing, because in the time you might be chipping away at it one at a time, there might be a better limited or a better hero or a better option, and then you're going to have to waste a reset book if you have one, or even worse, if you don't have one, you might be sitting around waiting for a reset book. At A3 and A5, I think they're pretty evergreen investments. They're not going to fall out of the meta anytime soon. But if you're stuck with an A2 Kagiri or A1 Sun Wukong, I just don't think it's worth it. Now we have got Lady Alexandra, the rarest hero in the game. Very few people have her, but you'd think in time eventually we'll all get her. So if you're lucky enough, she is like so good it's insane. She's the best hero in the game for Guild Wars. She's broken good. Her Awakenings, my favorite by far is her A5. Other stuff are really nice. The A1 is pretty solid. I don't love it. The A2, it's just attack. The A3 is quite good in helping her rage cycle. She's such a good hero, you never have to question it. And she's so insanely, supremely rare, especially if you want to flex on them bitches. It's always a good idea. That being said, this is a very niche case, but I would be remiss to not at least give her a shout, because still, she's a top option. I would still rank her 5th out of all these guys, unless, again, you want to flex on them hoes. So if we go to if you need over here already, don't do it. In my opinion, full stop. Don't do any of the other heroes, none of them. However, people are going to want to use them. You're not going to want to sit, especially if it's a younger account. You're not going to want to just leave that resource and not invest it. I hope you have a reset book. If you do, these are 3 top options, and only if you can guarantee the Awakening in parentheses. If you can get Hex A3, his ult lasts forever, up to 1 minute and 5 seconds. It is transformative. It is powerful. Hex is not a limited hero. He is not an unnameable. He is not Lady Alexandra. These 5, if it's not clear, are supremely rare. Yes, Hex might be hard to pull, but he comes up on banners. If you save, you will get him. You probably will regret it investing in him without a reset book. If you have a reset book, do what you want. Silas, his A3 is the most overrated Awakening in the game. It leads to like a 6% damage boost for him and another person. It's not worth it. Everything else, I don't care. His A5 is pretty insane, especially if you're trying to push content. Whatever target he's focusing on, so really boss content, that person will take 15% increased damage from all physical damage, and that's an end of the calculation thing. So it actually is a 15% damage boost for those guys. That is really good. And then Twyla, she does her hits with her crazy deranged blade. She does 12 hits whenever she triggers that. If you get her A1, it goes up to 18 hits, and that is a lot more. So the max damage she's going to do each time is 360% damage. If you get up to 18, it is 540. That's a lot more for those doing the math at home. That is a lot more. So those 3 are pretty nuts. Again, I do not advise it unless you can guarantee a reset, or you're a very young account, or you're progressing and you're impatient. Now, if you really need, I would not do any of these, but you might just be really itching to use it and you just feel like you got to do something. Hotsit's A5, 1 extra second on her ult is crazy. Ardia's A5, whenever she gets her blade back, she gets a big rage boost. That kind of goes nuts. These aren't in order, by the way, for these next stuff. I just kind of was going through the factions and the classes and just doing it as I saw it. Lyra A5, it makes her ult burst like the strongest burst imaginable besides maybe Soul Cadence. It's insane. Carnelian's A5 adds some crazy RNG to her keeping people alive. This can lead to super, super high-end Guild Boss 2 runs. And most importantly, makes her a total nightmare, completely impossible on a GVG defense. So if you care about that. Alistair A1, this is huge. He deals so much more damage, so much more consistent Radiant Erosion. Really just in all content, but really focusing on Guild Boss 2 Semra. That's really good. And then Eluin A3, there's no content you need this for right now. If you're progressing and you're just really struggling, she will help you in Semra with this, but you don't need it. You really don't, unless you're going for scores way beyond 120K. That being said, some people are going for that. And also Apocalypse 3 certainly is coming at some point, and you would think this will be really important. I'll say one other thing. Eluin's stones do cycle through the Awakening shop. And for that reason, I think if you're just patient and you want to save up the dupes to sell once you've A5 some heroes, she does show up here. That's actually how I got my Eluin A1. Seems like she shows up every few months. So that is something you can kind of count on, at least for now. That's where it ends. Now, limited heroes are limited, and some of them, they don't run a lot, right? Gwendolyn, it's been over a year. So if you have a limited you really love, not really, this isn't a meta decision. This is not a min-maxing decision, but you love them. this is something you could do. It's your account. So Reeve's A1, every 4 basics, he does a big stun. That is crazy. I happen to have Reeve A1 from pulling, and it is a pretty huge difference if you love Reeve. Lust A5, this formerly made her the best GB2 hero in the game, but Sun Wukong and Kagiri with their awakenings are stronger now, but this is still really fun, and I know a lot of people love Lust. Some people love Dahlia. Her A1, this makes the range away you need from the Curse Blossoms 1 tile instead of 2, which basically makes the effect work for so many more heroes, so many more allies. This is super niche, but if you want extra damage, you want the 1 extra block, this is cool. And then Anora, this is really only if you have bonded Anora, I would say, or you just truly love her, but her A3 goes hard as heck. So there you go. And then our last tier, no, as of now, literally everyone else. Literally everyone else. You can see I made a list here of some notable exceptions, and I mean this. Like Arrogance, A3, A5, amazing awakenings. He's already one of the best heroes in the game, borderline triple S. You just don't need him. It's not a worthy investment. He's not nearly as rare as these guys, and it's not as transformative. Now, Artemis A1, he is a niche hero, but his A1 is one of the couple strongest awakenings in the whole game. When he ults, which is the only time he can deal damage, his crit rate is now increased by 50%. As a collection bonus for the cultist faction, which he is in, you get 3% crit rate for all cultists. So that means during his ult, when he deals damage, his base crit rate is 53%. So you only have to build 47% crit rate additional on him. But it's niche, and you can get away with, you can beat Gear Grade 1, you can beat Gear Grade 4, you'll probably be able to beat future content with him at A0. He's good enough, you don't need to do it. Uridin, this is just for GVG, BP affiliation. He's the best mule in the game, but this is not worth it. Zila 2, her A3 makes her ult last 10 seconds longer. It's phenomenal. It is not worth it. She's actually down to an S on my tier list. You'll see that on January 1st. She's just slightly fallen out of the meta, and it's not nearly as good as any of this stuff. Now, Sargok and Pelagios, these are 2 ancient exclusive heroes, and they are both great with strong awakenings. They're too niche, and they're not as strong as the other things. It's still not worth it. Nyx A3 is insane. Every time she kills an enemy, she gets 50 rage. That's nuts. And then also during her A5, she deals so much more damage. She gets double hitters on her basics. Even still, she's niche enough. I just don't think it's worth it. Praetus at A5, he gets 10 extra seconds on his ultimate. I have it. It's awesome. Not worth the Soulstone. Comet at A1 is so good. At A3, you expand his range. It is still not worth it. And then Dasami, one of my couple most wanted heroes in the game. He is already the best cleanser in the game. At A1, he's like an automatic cleanser. He's very good. He's also a top inspiration hero right now for a lot of meta stuff. I put him here because he might be a great candidate here or here when Apocalypse 3 comes. But for now, there's literally just no reason, right? He's a niche hero, and it's just, you don't need that strong of cleansing yet. So there you have it. That is how this works. For your unpolished soulstones, please really just focus on these 4. And then if you're a Lady Alex simp and you really want to make other people feel bad about their lives, feel free to go for her. She is insanely OP. If you're desperate, do this. If you really are desperate and you've got some reset books need be, you can do this. If we go to our polished, by an absolute country mile, it is Ingrid to A3 and Praetus to A1 as the 2 best things to do in the game. You don't have to feel bad about any of this as well. You can happily do this as long as you can do a reset book, and please never touch these guys. This video is long, but I want to be definitive. Welcome to 2025. This is everything you need to know about Soulstones. You can argue with me in the comments. This is my theory of the case for Soulstones and where you should use them given the state of the meta and the content in the game and the heroes in the game at this moment. Thank you. You can see how much work this video was for me, and I still got to edit the whole thing. So if you appreciate it, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, click all notifications on that bell, share it with your mother. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.